on stage. How's that? There we go. And let's bring Liz to the stage. Thank you for joining us for Now Conversations.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. It's not sometimes 9:30 is earlier than other times, right? It depends on what our Friday night was. How you doing?
Yeah, especially on a Saturday morning, right?
I
Normally we're
know.
busy at work already, but yeah, we get a little lazier on Saturday mornings. But this is exciting. Glad to be here.
Well, thank you. And we've met each other in the last 3 or 4 months in that, so I know how busy you are. So I'm excited that people can get to know about you as a book author. So yeah, so let's just jump in. And as I said, three-time book author. And
Mm.
so I want to talk about mainly. I'd like to talk about your book, and it's called. I love the title so much. 12 Days of Miracles, and I believe I'm not looking at my notes, but it was about 2020 is about when you wrote it, or is that when it came together, correct?
Well, this is when everything happened, and so I actually wrote it, I want to say in 2024.
Okay. But when
Mhm.
it takes place, right, for 12 Days of Miracles, well, tell us, just give us the premise of the book to set the stage.
Yes. So the book is actually about my son, who Tyler, during COVID in 2020, when the world shut down shortly after March, we had planned our summer vacation, which we have been doing for 20 years, and we had to reschedule it because in the state of Florida, it was the vacation resorts and stuff were still shut down, and so we had to move our vacation time to the end of June, and so when they reopened everything, and just one day into our vacation, my son, who was 25 at the time, he's we all got there on Friday night. We were ready to enjoy the week ahead, basically culminating in the 4th of July weekend with our entire family, and on a little island, which is, you take a shuttle to it, so it's a little island that we've gone to for 20 years. And that evening he fell sick, and so the next morning his now wife came down as I was preparing breakfast for us to start the day off on Saturday, and said that Tyler had been experiencing just nausea and just wasn't feeling good all night long. And her words were, he felt like he did when he was back at the fraternity house at University of Florida. And I thought, well, they didn't really drink that much the night before, so I was a little concerned. But I thought, well, they've been locked down, and they lived in Miami at the time, because that was the other key, is they lived in Miami and we're up here in Tampa Bay. And so basically, fast forward throughout the day and the night, he became increasingly worse, to where a point where we took him to the fire station on the island, thinking maybe it was some type of weird symptoms of COVID. And they said, no, just, my son, who's a fireman, gave him some IVs. By 3 a.m. on Sunday morning, he was experiencing facial paralysis. And so by 7 a.m., we got on the shuttle and took him to the local hospital. And from there, they basically said it could be a brain bleed, it could be some type of a mass. They didn't know. And it was eerily quiet in the hospital because it was COVID and nobody was there.
Right.
Um, Fast forward, my husband's customer was the CEO of Brandon Hospital. And so that Sunday morning, he called his friend and said, I need your help. My son we're down here at the beach, and this is what's going on. And he said, you need to get him to Brandon. We'll have a team here ready, waiting for him. And
Jeez.
so we left the island with my son, my daughter-in-law, and my rest of my family stayed on the island as we took the hour-and-a-half drive by ambulance to Brandon Hospital, where he was admitted about 12 hours later. And once he was admitted, we could not be with him. And as a mother, that was absolutely heartbreaking, not knowing what was going on. So the 12 Days of Miracles really was, looking back, I realized that there was no way that the things that happened could have happened without the Lord being involved and sending angels literally into the room to help them. And so even though he didn't want me to write it, he said, Mom, I don't want that out there. I just felt like people still needed to hear that God is still doing miracles today. And it's just my heart pouring into paper, saying, this is what the Lord did for my son. And he is doing wonderful today, by the way. But it was a very, very scary time. I mean, literally, our lifeline was FaceTime, and the cord, the charger, was the lifeline to be able to keep that phone active, to where we can still communicate with him, because there was nobody that we thought was actually in the hospital. But it turns out there were many angels that were surrounding him. And that's what you got to read the book about.
Well, I'm sure people will want to pick it up, and I'll make sure that we have the link so people can buy this book. And then you wrote the book, I Am the Answer, before that, and then also you were in a collaboration book. And we've got a couple collabs going on in our company, so that's been a topic that I've been talking about a lot, and that was In Her Shoes.
Yes.
So let's, I was thinking about the title of your book, and it's just a great one. First of all, the industry says your book titles should, not be more than 4 words. And really they say 3 words are the best. So
Mm-hmm.
it's 4 words. So that you hit the mark on that with your 12 Days of Miracles. And, there's so much of a science into why people buy books, right? And, the anatomy
Absolutely.
sale basic, but just the whole thing of how do you attract a reader. I mean, look at the bookshelves behind us. There's,
Right.
just as an example, right? You go to Barnes and Noble, and what book catches your eye? Color, you know, design, title, font, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. So the title is so important, obviously, which is why we're talking about this. And so
Yep.
did you come up with that title? Did you hear it? Did you say it? How did you come up with 12 Days of Miracle as your book title?
And the 12 Days of Miracles were literally 12 days. And I just felt that that was the story, the 12 days, because when he was admitted to the time he was released, he literally went in with unknown what was going on by himself, had to have brain surgery, have the tumor removed by himself, and left there. And of course, it was months of recovery from that. I'm not saying 12 days and he was healed.
Right.
It was actually years because he experienced a couple seizures afterwards. So, but the 12 Days of Miracles just seemed to be, I felt like for me, it told the story. It's 12 days of miracles. Very simple.
That's one of the title journeys that came pretty easily. How did I Am the Answer? Did that title come easily?
That one is truly God inspired. So I was singing on my worship team on a Sunday morning, and at the time we had 4 services, and I literally audibly heard the Lord say, "I am the answer." And as I looked around, did anyone else hear this? Thinking, because the
Right.
pastor's on the stage doing his invitation. I heard it again the second service, and I heard it again the third service, and I knew there was something that God was trying to tell me. This was probably 2017. I had gone through, since 2006, the loss of 4 of my family members, in all tragic ways. And so I was carrying a lot of grief at the time. And I knew he was the answer. There was no denying the Lord was the answer to the grief that I went through every single time. And so when I heard that, I felt that God was saying, I am the answer, but I didn't know what to do with it. And so fast forward, again, like I said, 2017, 2018, I was leading one of my Lisboro Connections events, and I was at the table passing around the sheets for the day that we were going to be discussing. And one of my friends said, "Hey, my friend is going to be publishing a book, the Yes God book, and would you like to be part of it?" And I said, and I had been feeling like God was saying, "You need to write a book." I didn't know how to write a book. It didn't even seem like something I could even achieve. And so when she gave me that invitation, I just felt like that was the door opening. And I said yes. So, of course, yes, God. And then through that experience, I knew I needed to start writing about I Am the Answer. But what's so funny about that title, Lisa, is that as I was writing it, I kept thinking, I'm not the answer. And people are going to pick it up and go, oh, kind of sounds narcissistic. You're the answer. So I added my pathway to joy because as I wrote the book, it took me multiple years. It didn't actually get released until 2020. And when I was coming up with the title, I felt that if I said I am the answer, I think people would just push it away. I'm not interested. But it was through the Lord in each of those experiences and multiple other experiences of grief, because we know that it's not just loss of love when you grieve. It was 5 miscarriages. It was some job situations. It was a multiple of different things that grief was involved in, and I talk about that in the book. But my pathway to joy was really my part of it, saying, I am the answer, my pathway to joy. I wanted people to know what it was. What is the pathway to joy? And that's really what the book is about. is directing it back to the Lord and saying that it was through him that I had the joy, because grief tends to remove your joy. You don't have any joy in the morning. You wake up, you feel guilty, all the emotions that go with grief. And thank you for inviting me for the Grief Wise podcast. That was beautiful, because you still process it. Grief never goes away. But I hope through the pages of that book, if people will pick it up and say, I am the answer, my pathway to joy, it will make them want to pick it up to find out what is that answer.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that journey. Not, just that I think it's a beautiful, book publishing, brand new debut author journey, and you said you started writing, first it was the planting the seed of the title, and then not knowing as a new author, you're like, do I have enough to write about? Am I supposed to write? Am I good enough to write? How can this come together? Right. I mean, and it's really likened to, I've got a new client I had a conversation with this week, even very new. I think she's done like a chapter. She's, kind of struggling a bit, just really understanding it. And I think, any new endeavor, we got to give ourselves grace. And just kind of, and it's easier said than done, of course, right? When you're in the midst of it. Right. But and especially for people like you, I mean, you're, very accomplished, professional, CEO life that you run and manage so much. So you might have a mindset of, well, I can manage this, and you can something new, but it's still new, and so, and, over the years we've had, a few clients that, come at it that way. And probably I come at things that way. And I have to just say, why don't you just see if it might work out how I don't think it will? I might be surprised, and I mean, I'm being silly about it, but, it's nice that people can hear that, aspiring authors can hear, that it took, 3 years to put it together, and then what you shared. And then, of course, the faith-based professional I am just loves that you're, letting your words in your book bring people closer to God to understand his grace, and and his favor of giving us angels, back to the first book. And we're going to talk about your angel work, because you are surrounded with angels. But I'm looking at the clock because we're already getting into it, and we're losing time. So let me I want to put a bow on the book title discussion, and just to finish that off. So I want to share with people that about book titles. And what we've done in our journey with authors is sometimes they come to us with book title, like you said, it was obvious, it was 12 Days of Miracles. Other times, though, we've struggled, and we struggle less times than often. But when we do that, I mean, we do have a great thing called chat GPTs now, but before we didn't have that. What would happen is sometimes our author would be in it, and they'd be writing, and then all of a sudden they'd write the title. They're like, that's the title. Sometimes as we're editing, I'd have an editor prove it, say, that could be a really good title, right? So it would come through their words in some ways. And then other times, when we've struggled with it, so to speak, is we would get on a group chat. We would do polls, right? So sometimes we would do, a while back, we would do the social media poll. Now that kind of will create a whole firestorm sometimes. So we stop that.
Too much content.
But we got a good title that way once, so it is. And what's fun about a title is it is a good time to really let you dig into what is the exact core message, right? What is the takeaway message? What am I trying to even attract the reader about? Am I attracting a marathon reader? What would be a word, that they would like? So it's just kind of all things, related to getting into the content, getting into the words, and that for titles. So
yeah, I think words are everything, and it certainly. I mean, I look around my office and I have books everywhere, and there's some books that I've bought that I thought it was about one thing, and it turned out to be something about completely different, and I lost interest, and I put it down, and I never finished it. So that hard work that author put into it could have been probably with a different title, might have attracted a different reader.
Yes, could be that. And then what I think, because I've got, we all book readers, I've got a ton of books that I started, same thing. And they would, if it takes me down a rabbit trail, I lose interest, right? If it
Yeah.
takes me, like you said, if I thought I was going to learn about something and I learned about it in 2 chapters, and now there's a whole other topic that I'm not interested in, put it down. And then the other thing, that I, of course, believe it's important to have great editors in your publishing company is that if it's not so, really we call it tight, if it's not so tightly written that it really engages the reader. So I will read something that maybe I'm not interested in. If it's tightly written and I can get through it and it leads me, I'll stay with it. But as
Right.
soon as editing's not good and not sharp, forget it. I'm done.
Yeah.
Close it
Yeah.
and donate the book, right? So that's good. That's a great point. And you clearly, as a 3-time author, you have it. So what would you say, as you started your very first book? And well, first of all, I'll ask you a question I think I know the answer to, and that is, it seems like after you wrote your first book, then for your second book, you're like, okay, I kind of get it. And did you kind of get a little bit of a writing bug where you're like, okay, I can do it, I like it? Tell me that after you did your first book.
Yeah, I think so. The first book was hard. I want to say it took a lot of courage because I was having to go back to the time that a lot of this happened, and it was very painful. And so as you move through grief, you start to, forget some details. I think that's how time heals. So writing the book, it was kind of hard because it was bringing back a lot of those painful moments. But I knew it was important to share that in order to show people that there is a pathway to joy. The second book was really a joyful book. It was all about, celebrating the miracles and remembering the miracles. And so I was in a different emotional state at that point. Started off as grief, of course, because you don't know. I talk about in the book that we didn't know if Tyler was going to make it. I didn't know if it was going to be another cancer journey. And so starting with that, but then seeing how his progress was allowed me to be able to start noticing those miracles. And so there's a twist to that whole thing with the 12 days of miracles. But yeah, I wrote it, and I did it I finished it in our RV up in Georgia during the Christmas break. I literally rewrote it probably 3 times. I just felt a lot more, I guess, educated after writing the first and reading my first after it was edited. That some of the time I may have been rambling. And so this book was shorter. It was less rambling, even less words. Sometimes we use the word that. We think the word that has to be in every sentence.
I know.
And if you remove the word that, you realize the sentence still makes clearer sense.
Right. It doesn't
so
need
it's
it.
those little details you don't know until you have somebody who's an editor that's telling you don't need that word, or just little things like punctuation and stuff. So I was a little bit more educated, so it made me more excited to just share more confidently, I guess, from experience.
Well, and we tell, what I'll tell a new author. I think I was sharing with you yesterday, we started a new beautiful book. We got to have it ready for their gala in October. And I'm going to move to your galas coming up in October also.
Yes.
But I was sharing with the author that as she starts, and it's her first book, as she starts to work with our editor chapter by chapter, usually around chapter 4, chapter 5, she'll start to see the writing style. She'll start to see that she doesn't need to put that everywhere in there. She'll start to kind of get it. And then by the end of the first book, then typically many of our clients say, okay, I'm ready for the next one. Maybe not tomorrow, which is understandable because it's a big task to publish a book and a big endeavor. But I have multiple authors that after that first book, they've pushed out many other books. So it's I think it's obviously, I love to be both a book author and I love book publishing. So I recommend it, right? So we recommend it.
Absolutely. It's a great way to share your heart, tell the story, and communicate to people that are interested, that you don't have to sit in front of them and share the story. You can let it do at their pace.
Well, I want to talk about the company that you're a CEO, the foundation that you're a CEO for, because we don't have a lot of time, and I really want you to be able to talk about Angel Foundation Florida. And just tell people, I can't believe I didn't know about you until recently. And you've been around now, you're celebrating your 20th year in a gala in October, but please tell everyone everything we need to know about Angel Foundation Florida. And here's the website there. I'm going to throw it in the chat too.
Yes, thank you so much for that. So the the Angel Foundation came through fruition. It started off as the Greater Brandon Community Foundation. And so I was invited as a volunteer. We did a great big golf tournament. And so as a mom of three, busy family, businesses, running businesses, I knew that there was a part of my heart that I wanted to give back to my community, but my time was very limited. And so I was able to be part of this, volunteer at this event where we were able to raise a lot of money and give it back to the community. We did that through grants. So 2 years later, as the second golf tournament was taking place, my father was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. It started off with a cough when we were visiting him on Father's Day, to by September, he was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, and it had progressed so quickly. At that point, our life was turned upside down. The things that we took for granted were no longer, Sunday dinners after church, going hanging out. It was spent with hospital visits, chemo, just struggling to just get through the next appointment and holding out hope that he was going to make it. Sadly, by January, he passed away. And so as I came up for air after his passing and funeral, and, life never gets back to normal, I realized that there was so many times that I would never have gone to those charities that we were supporting. I wasn't going to go looking for food. I wasn't going to, go to get the resources that the government can provide to you. We just figured it out. We were going to make it work. But thanks to our family and our friends and our church, things got behind, but we basically, our grass was mowed, we had meals dropped off at the house, the things that people just came alongside of you and took care of. And so I went back to the leaders at the time and I said, I feel like there's a gap in the community for people that were just like us, like you, who work, who are taking care of their family, they attend church, they're living their life, and they're just working hard, right? And when these catastrophic events or life-threatening illnesses happen and life gets turned upside down, they just need a helping hand, not a handout, but a helping hand. And so that year we created the Foundation Angel program. We had our first evening of hope, and we invited the community to come together and said, everyone in this room has time, talent, or treasure that you can give. And so what does that look like? And we basically gave them a card, they can fill it out. And we literally received a stack of cards back. I think there were 300 people in the room that night. Because if people are hungry, they want to help. They want to do something that they can do in their power and in their talents and with their dollars. And so we created the Angel program, and our first family was a family, Patrick's family, who was battling cancer. He was at end stage. And as we walked up to the house, we saw the grass was high. The air conditioner was very stuffy. It was in July. It was very stuffy. And his wife expressed how the washing machine was broken. So we basically go into the homes of families. We sit over the dining table, sometimes in the living room, and say, what is it that you need right now? And you'd be surprised. Some people don't want to ask for any help because they figure there's nobody to help them. And we say, no, we're here to walk alongside of you. And so we brought in Famous Tape. They donated a new washing machine. We had a lawn care company that came along and said, I lost someone to cancer. I want to give back. I want to help this family. And we were also able to get an air conditioning angel to come out and fix the air conditioning, all donated for these families. Because when you go through something like this, many times you want to give back, you just don't know where or how. And so we make that possible for businesses in our community to use their trades and their talents and be able to give back. And then we have volunteers who have maybe gone through such things like this, and that they want to be able to walk alongside a family, give them help and give them hope. And that's our biggest goal, is let them know that they're never alone. And so we're celebrating our 20th year this year. It was our first evening of hope in October of 2006. And so it's hard for me because I get emotional now, because one of the things that we're going to do is 20 years. We're going to use 20 as our theme. And we're going to offer folks to be able to make a $20 donation in honor of someone that they have lost, or maybe somebody that's battling cancer or going through a life-threatening or catastrophic event right now, this year. And that way they can do that in honor. And we'll have beautiful candles set up. Now the venue doesn't allow for candles, so we're going to have to figure that out. But I was able to find that candle that we had in honor of my father that year. So it's 20 years. It's been sitting on my mantle. I can't even believe it's been 20 years. As I picked it up, it just brought back that emotion of why we need to let people honor the people that they have lost, but also to support the families that are going through these catastrophic situations and life-threatening illnesses today and in the future. So it's going to be a beautiful event in celebration of the thousands of families that we walked alongside of, but also awareness to make sure that no family has to go through it alone. And our goal is to cover the state of Florida with this model and then beyond. We want it to be national at some point.
Yeah, become a National Angel Foundation. I love the the honoring someone that way. I love that. That's fantastic. And of course, we're going to be there. And I already said I'm buying a table, so I'm buying a table. Send
Yes,
a sponsorship package, and I know that they're out. I will actually also publish the link as we go live with this, so that everyone listening can come to it. And you guys do an amazing job with your Evening of Hope. And I just know how special this is going to be. But it's just, I love this joke. I say it so much. I'm sick of it probably myself. But the idea is, how do you hear from God? Well, one of the ways is through His angels on earth.
Yes,
and that is
absolutely.
everything. And thank you for taking us through what Angel Foundation Florida does. But it's all these angels. And you even have junior angels. You even have high schoolers that come and help the families. And like you said, every family has different needs, and there's different ways that people provide their services, like you said, their talents and their time, not just the money. But the money is fantastic because you give them amazing gift cards that help them with what they need, school supplies and just everything. So, and I'm also excited for you to be on GriefWise soon, to talk about, a little bit more about what you've experienced in your life and sharing that grief journey, which is ongoing. There's no end to it necessarily, but ongoing. So, oh my gosh, 2 more minutes left. Oh no. Okay. So I need to ask you to help motivate someone that's watching that knows there's a book in them. Maybe they have their title and they just haven't started yet. What would you say to them?
If you have a story in your heart, it's so practical as open up a Google Doc, start writing. Editors are going to make it beautiful for you. If you're not a writer, if you don't feel in your heart, just start writing down what's on your heart and what you want to share. Even if it's cooking lessons, there's books about recipes. What are you inspired to write and share with the world? Lisa, you spoke at my Rotary Club and you shared how many people don't know the story. They don't know your story. So even if it's just about you, your legacy. I have 4 grandchildren now, and I am trying to pour into them every day. But one day I won't be here, and they are not going to know the stories of when I grew up and where, my faith began, my faith journey, or the trials that I've gone through, or the job struggles. And so you have a story, and you need to share that with the world. And whether it's just for your own family or if it's going to be for the world to read, someone's going to pick that up, and you're going to inspire, and you're going to challenge them, and you're going to give them courage to do the same, because the world, there's a story behind every face. Everyone has a story. Find out, ask God, what is that story that you want me to share with the world? And He will show you.
Thank you. Start writing is the hashtag. 100% agree. There's a way you can contact us at CEO Book Publishing, but I shouldn't say this, but I will. And if it's not a book that you want to publish your story, then just make a video, make an audio, publish it in a news article. The online newsletters are the big deal now. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Liz. I knew that we'd have so much to talk about, and thank you everyone for watching now. Conversations. We'll see you next Saturday. Thank you again, Liz.
Thank you, Lisa. God bless.
Bye-bye.